Wow. This entire time, this entire time, thankfully I have not read too much, but Karma, wow, I forgot to hit go live because it was grayed out and I was waiting for it. But wow, my apologies everyone from everything. It's now and Karma, I really do apologize for actually starting late. I forgot to hit live in my studio here in order to actually go live. Thankfully, I didn't read anything that was immediately jarring. So we still have some ways to go. The thing was, I was doing a little bit of a recap, so that's where I spent most of my time talking about, and I just kind of started, so we're good. Did I read already? No. I did not read through the whole chapter already, thankfully. Whoo, that was too close. I only read like the first 2 pages. That was it. Whew, right, kitty. Sorry, everyone. I gotta do this right. I gotta do this right for you guys. So let's go ahead and do this right. Whew. With that, I just want to say, ladies and gentlemen, yo, peoples, Kyushu92 here to bring you my reaction to My Hero Academia. Thankfully, I kind of read the first 2 pages, not realizing that I had not gone officially live yet with my reaction to this chapter, but thankfully, Karma is on the up and up, and he said something, and, well, here we are. I want to thank everyone who has helped me get to 1,900 subscribers. We are on the precipice of hitting 2K, 2,000 subscribers for this channel, and I highly doubt that it's going to be just like, I'm going to hit 2,000 when my birthday comes up on Tuesday, because I have a birthday on Tuesday, and I'm turning 29, but I just want to say thank you to everyone who has helped me, who has helped this channel get this far. So, I got the chapter full screened here. Let's go ahead and see what's happening in this chapter. Now, starting off, we have a full cover page with Midoriya and Shigaraki. And they're all sitting on the top of staticky televisions, with Midoriya sitting on the right side with a television that has All For One's face on it, and we have Shigaraki on the left side with a TV with All Might's face on it. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, we don't have a name for the chapter quite yet, but we have All Might. It's not words exactly, more like feelings flowing from you. Your chat with the predecessors, the truths about One for All, my master's inner conflict. Then there's a knock at the door. I only sense these things faintly, but I feel them flowing into me. What your quirkless self has to say, though not exactly in words. And then it's Hawks and Best Jeanist, because remember, they were coming there to talk to All Might. And Hawks speaks. Pleased to meet you, All Might. They say I'm the kind of man who moves a little too fast, so I've sped over here in a hurry with questions for you. Now, mind you, Hawks is not still able to fully, coherently, and projectively speak, so he's using the text-to-speech on his phone, while Best Jeanist just combs his hair, and also says, a bit rude, no? Is Midoriya in bad shape? And then All Might gets up, and I guess he's wiping his eye, because I guess a tear was building up, or, just sitting there with Midoriya, and he says, no, he's okay. Bound to wake up shortly, in fact. How can I help you, Hawks? And he's speaking with Best Jeanist. Well, he's actually speaking with Hawks while Best Jeanist is looking at some of the students from Class 1A. I see Ida, I see Jiro, and Uraraka. And Uraraka is the first person to run into Midoriya's room. Then Hawks says, this concerns One for All and Midoriya. And this, of course, immediately gets All Might's attention. When some of the heroes who were part of the big battle quit their jobs, they told the media what they'd heard, and word's been spreading ever since. Endeavor has just informed me that Shigaraki was going after Midoriya. Maybe someone misspoke or misheard? But even if this intel is wrong, it's worth filling in the gaps, because going forward it won't be just villains we're fighting. We're up against all of society as well. Because based off of what Dabi said, and the devastation left behind by Shigaraki and the heroes fighting, faith in heroes is kind of at an all-time low right now. And not everyone has faith that the heroes can do this job of keeping everyone safe, what with All For One breaking out these maximum security quirk users out of prison. And All Might doesn't say anything. And then we have a flashback to All Might speaking to Midoriya saying, "This secret is all that prevents society from falling into chaos. It's also meant to protect you, understand?" And then All Might thinks to himself, I'm guessing, I suppose we're way past this point already. The ones who won't give up, huh? And then he starts walking away from him saying, "We need privacy. Follow me. I'll tell you everything." And this is the extent of where I've read. But All Might just says, "I'll tell you everything." And then we cut to the principal's office. Principal Nezumi! And he's on the phone with someone. "Yes, we'll be relying on the government's cooperation. This is a request from an alumnus, so of course we'll respond right away." And then we have some narration. 3 days had passed, but the panic showed no signs of dying down. The unease steadily spread, but not everyone was out for blood. They wanted heroes to be shining pillars of decency and to insist they'd done nothing wrong. And the unease, they wanted reassurance. So here we have a whole bunch of reporters here in this big conference room, and what appears to be Best Jeanist, Endeavor, and Hawks, all in line, all in a row of how tall they are, from Best Jeanist being the tallest down to Endeavor, all the way down to Hawks being the shortest out of this group. But they're talking to all these reporters. More than anything, the public needed something to cling to. And then we have Endeavor speaking. "He spoke the truth, and for what I've done, I cannot apologize enough." And then this shocks all the reporters who were there during this conference for him to say that. Then the narration continues. "Endeavor spoke freely and openly about his and his family's sickening past." Whoa. And then it looks like we're getting reactions from people all over Japan to Endeavor pretty much confirming everything that Toya basically said during the big battle. And we got a fat guy just chilling in his house in the dark with loads of junk and trash all over his rooms and bags of trash all around his room. It's all over for that guy. And then some other people are saying, "How terrible." And then some other people are saying, "Man, I was on that guy's side, but yeesh." Then we have other people saying, "He should have just said it was all a bunch of lies." And then the reporters are coming in on him saying, "It's all true, you say, but the accusation about Hawks and Best Jeanist clearly wasn't." Then we have Hawks speaking, who has apparently healed from his injuries a little bit, because his speech bubble is still a little bit gravelly on the edges to signify that his voice hasn't completely come back. But there's a little bit of underlying injury and, roughness in his voice. "My supposed assassination of Best Jeanist was a ploy to help infiltrate the enemy ranks, but that fact doesn't negate the rest of the accusations. The bit about my father and the part about me killing a fleeing villain were both true." So he confirms not only his past with his father, but also the fact he also confirms that he killed twice. "I did indeed conceal the details about my father, and for that I apologize. As for the matter of Bubai Gawara, I felt I was left with no choice at the time. If he had been allowed to wield his quirk freely, we would have been looking at more widespread death and destruction. I couldn't find a proper way to help him atone for his crimes, and that is truly a shame. It speaks to my lack of character. And then we have another reporter, and she stands up saying, a question, if I may. During Gigantomachia's rampage, my mother was horribly wounded. You saying it's all true, sorry, isn't going to change this state of affairs. Do you have the slightest idea how many people have lost their homes in just under a week? How can you stand there pretending it's all over, like what's done is done? Always that one person who tries to bring up the absolute worst that happens instead of, embracing the fact that everyone's still alive, that other people are still alive. At least she ain't dead, but let's just continue before I go hard on this lady, because I feel like I'm about to. Sure, villains are directly to blame, but your mistakes caused all of this, and none of your faces show you understand that. And then Endeavor says, if we showed you our pain and exhaustion and tears, would that somehow fix everything? And of course, this gets this Karen of a woman more mad and upset that Endeavor's actually throwing some logic. Let's think about it. If the heroes showed you that they're tired, that they feel the pain, and that they're crying and bawling over the fact that they have a harder job on their hands, would that put you at ease? Think about it. This woman's expecting them, like, your faces don't show that you're really, really sorry. I'm like, woman, would you like for my face to show you that I'm sorry? Do you want me to cry? Do you want me to break down? Do you want me, one of the top number one heroes, to have a full mental breakdown in front of you when I could be devoting that to, trying to protect what is still out there? Would that be more preferable to you? I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like there's always those type of reporters that try to push the envelope because this is a question. This is a biased question. This isn't an unbiased question. She's actually taking this question very, very personally because her mother was injured rather than, and I understand some people will let their emotions get the better of them if they have family involved. They can get to this point right here, but if she's there to report, and she starts throwing her own personal feelings and she becomes emotionally compromised, then, she shouldn't be mad and upset if people throw logic on her and she can't really answer back. But getting back to it before I go on a whole nother tangent, Endeavor says, if we showed you our pain and exhaustion and tears, would that somehow fix everything? And she immediately gets red in the face and a mad and irate and says, what? Obviously not. You need to put society at ease. You need to take down every last villain. That's how. And then she immediately calms down. And then Endeavor says, you're exactly right. That's how I, as Endeavor, can atone. And then we have Best Jeanist, who has a much longer neck than I was expecting because we see him with jeans over his face all the time. But seeing just how big his neck really is, it's like, this dude got a long neck. But Best Jeanist stands up and says, and yet with our ranks shrinking, heroes are ill-equipped to protect the masses at large. Therefore, we hope to reduce the overall sphere that requires our protection. What? What does that mean? On the heels of the discussion with the government, from today forward, UA High School and other hero programs will put their expansive, well-secured campuses to use as designated evacuation shelters. Wow, so they are actually going to take all places that are hero affiliated and turn them into evacuation places for civilians. Which means that civilians could find themselves, interacting with the UA students a little bit more than UA would have normally wanted. The students' parents have already begun the process of taking shelter. Yo, we got Midoriya's mom and Bakugo's mom! And it actually has Bakugo's mom. Her name is Mitsuki, isn't it? I think her name is Mitsuki Bakugo. But, she's walking with Midoriya's mom in this one panel that says the students' parents have already begun the process of taking shelter. And then reporters are coming down on them, saying, "So with no path forward, you expect people to just accept living in shelters?" Then Endeavor says, "This is all for finding a path forward. Your criticisms and doubts, direct them all at me, not at the people who will be putting their lives on the line. I want all of you just to watch me." And he says that as fire erupts around his face as his trademark. And then we see other heroes. We see Wash. We see Aizawa. We see Mirko, who is pulling a band around her arm. We see, who is that, Ryukyu, or is that Nejire? Yes, the heroes were put through a sieve. And if you define hero, and this is narration, yes, the heroes were put through a sieve. And if you define hero as someone the people look up to and count on, then the heroes really did vanish that day. And yet, some were still prepared to stand up and fight. And then going from here, we have what looks to be Toya saying, "So I didn't go far enough." And then we have more narration. When Endeavor was asked about One for All, he replied, "I don't know." Hey guys, this is nuts! And then here we are at the Class 1A building, so that Deku and All Might wouldn't have targets on their backs. So Endeavor just said he doesn't know anything about it. Just so Midoriya and All Might won't have people targeting them. So that Deku and All Might wouldn't have targets on their backs. And then we have a letter saying, and I guess this is from Midoriya, "Uraraka, thank you for everything. I felt that I had to reveal my secret to everyone in Class A, so I'm leaving these letters for you guys." I can't even read it. I can't even read all of it. "I'm leaving these letters for you guys. My unique power was passed down to me from All Might." Okay, and then we have Mineta running in here. "Midoriya left a letter on my door." "You got one too? What's going on with him?" And Uraraka is still reading. Yep, it says, "Passed down from me to All Might, which is why Shigaraki and All for One are now coming after me." All for One? So the villains are after him? That Midoriya, what's the big idea, huh? But if you define a hero as someone willing to suffer in silence, then who's there for them when they're in pain? And then Uraraka just puts the letter on her head and just says, "That dummy." Going to the next one. April. What? What? What is this? What is this? Ah! April, Deku left the Hero Academy. Chapter 306, the final act begins? Is this the final act of My Hero? We're in the end game? We're in the end game of My Hero Academia? Ah! What? What is this? No! My Hero Academia! Is this the last arc? Ah! And it shows Midoriya with his hero outfit in tatters. Here and there in certain spots, he's got a scarf over his face and everything. He's got a backpack on. He's standing on top of this overhang from this building, and there's a massive crash in the background. And Midoriya just says, "A giant villain. Next chapter hits next week. Chapter 306, the final act begins." Are we in the final arc for My Hero? Chapter 306 is the beginning of the end. I don't I don't even know what to do. I don't even know what to say about this. So first things first, like the big takeaway from this chapter is that 3 days have passed, and Endeavor and not Present Mike, but Best Genius and Hawks are talking to reporters. One reporter gets loud and irate, trying to get the heroes to say, like, what are you going to do to make us all feel at ease? You're like, you don't look like you're making us feel all at ease. And Endeavor's all like, would you like for me to cry and bawl my eyes out in order for me, will that help you? And she doesn't like that. He looks like Batman on the cliff standing. Yes, you know the picture. You know the picture where he's standing and his cape is like unfurled around him. And then they have one version of Superman where he's standing out looking at Metropolis and his cape is all around him. How much time has passed since they woke up? I mean, 3 days have passed since... Well, it actually doesn't show Midoriya waking up, does it? We kind of skipped over the whole thing with the dreamscape where the two users of One for All speak to Midoriya. We just skipped ahead of that. We just skipped all of that, and now we're 3 days in, and then we cut to another section of UA where it says in April Deku left the Hero Academy. So it was still in March, but now it's saying that in April Deku pretty much just left UA. So March was when everything went down. The battle with Shigaraki and all the aftermath, but it's in April. It's in April where Midoriya just left. I don't think it's the final arc. I think Deku will go to America. Deku is basically a vigilante. I mean, it will not be the final arc because there are lots of things left incomplete and Midoriya has to unlock all of the quirks. There are a lot of things to complete. I mean, I feel like even if this is the final arc, you can still tie up so much because the last arc we were pretty much just going with was pretty long. And I mean, you know, who knows how things go from here? I mean, I don't know. Could be My Hero Academia year, I don't know, senior year or whatever. I don't know what name they would give My Hero if a time skip was to happen. I don't know. And maybe I'm jumping the gun by saying this, but it just, I mean, you can't deny that with the title for chapter 306, the final act begins. It doesn't sound like endgame territory. I mean, probably final act of this war? Maybe, possibly. We'll have to see. But he really left us. I mean, Midoriya it does say he really left UA. I mean, the last thing we get on the note of Midoriya leaving is, oh, you know what? That was not Nejire, and that wasn't Nejire. That was actually Burnin. I think that was Burnin. Is that Burnin? No, that's Mount Lady. My bad. That's actually Mount Lady. I'm just now realizing the mask part. That was Mount Lady. But here, in the last words we see of this chapter, yes, the heroes were put through a sieve. And if you define hero as someone that people look up to and count on, then the heroes really did vanish that day. And yet, some were still prepared to stand up and fight. And then the last words we see is, but if you define a hero as someone willing to suffer in silence, then... But if you define a hero as someone willing to suffer in silence, then who's there for them when they're in pain? And then the last panel we see is April, Deku left the Hero Academy. What about Inko? Does Inko even know Midoriya left because wasn't she moving into UA? Yes, she was there with Mitsuki. She was there with Baku. She was literally in a panel walking alongside Bakugo's mom as they were, I guess, pushing some boxes into the buildings in there. Man, we didn't see Shoto and Bakugo's reaction to the letter. Because here we have Kirishima, I see Kaminari, I see Mineta, I see Asui, I see pretty much almost everyone. I don't see Yaoyorozu, I don't see Tokoyami. Only a handful of students. Only a handful of students are there. But in this instance, we see Bakugo's mom and Inko walking in UA. But whether she knows or not remains to be seen. Inko about to go crazy? I mean, we saw how she responded when she saw Midoriya having his arm looked at and it was in a sling after, what was it? He fought. Who was it he fought? Was it Muscular? And he wound up in the hospital with a big old brace? Notice how Deku is kind of like Sasuke and Bakugo is kind of like Naruto. I mean, to a degree, but at least Midoriya isn't doing this in the case of revenge. That's the difference. But I honestly feel like Midoriya is behaving like Sasuke does in Boruto. You know, without the whole atoning for my past sins type angle. But he's just going out on his own, being a hero. Without, you know, I guess with the praise and admiration one would expect from a hero. He's out doing his own thing right now. But in April, Deku left the Hero Academy. And there's a massive explosion and crashing in the distance with Midoriya overlooking it. And he's at the top of a building. Notice that he's at a top of a building watching this. So does this mean that how is Midoriya going to get down from there? Has he learned how to harness float in order to get across on top of buildings? Because let's just look at the small details here. He's over on a high building looking at an explosion down below. He's looking at an explosion down below from a high building. So does that mean that he's learned how to use float to learn how to use all one for all to jump up to high places and then use float to get down from high places now? Has he learned that? Because he's overlooking them. He's overlooking it, and then he says, a giant villain. Chapter 306, the final act begins. Use Black Whip like Spider-Man? I mean, he can. Midoriya has a lot of powers that can give him increased mobility. What is My Hero Vigilante? It's a separate comic going along the lives of some other quirk users who are not part of the hero affiliation, but, you know, just behave outside of hero jurisdiction to be heroes. Now, myself, I'm still reading through Vigilante. I'm not adding it to the channel, but I'm still reading through Vigilante. I really, really need to catch up. I have not read in a very long time, but I really do need to catch up because there's some things concerning vigilantes that shine more light into the current My Hero Academia manga. So I need to continue reading that. I also need to catch up on Attack on Titan as well. But a lot of things in Vigilante, I hear it's really, 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 really good. So I'm looking forward to finishing that and, you know, catching up so I can get a better understanding. Because I hear Vigilante pop up a whole lot, but I feel I'm doing myself a disservice if I don't read it and know what you guys are talking about in chat whenever it comes up. But here, Midoriya doesn't look like he's overly happy. Hey, Cinderon Greywood! Glad to finally catch up to watch my lives, even if I missed the whole thing, it seems. It's all good. I'm just happy that you were able to catch up to all of my Hero Academia videos, including the ones where I made a lot of the girls sound like little girls, even though they don't sound this way. I remember. I've learned to really cut back on that for female voices since then, because I did that a long time ago. I've learned to cut back on voices for, you know, girls who are, for women and girls who are, you know, not kids. I've learned to cut back on that and make it sound a little bit more natural. So I thank you for that. But, look at his eyes in the last chapter. It says it all. He went through a lot. He really has. His clothes are in tatters. He's got scuff marks everywhere. His clothes look like he's been fighting constantly. Remember in My Hero Chapter 1, he said big villain but happy? You know what? Let's actually pull that up. So here in Chapter 306, the last thing Midoriya says is a giant villain. So, if I go all the way back down, you know what? Forget looking it up. Forget looking it up on the internet. This is where my bookshelf comes into play! With the very first volume, let's pull this back up. So if I pull this all the way up, so the last thing, let me see. In Chapter 1, he said big villain but happy. Let me go back to, is this the same villain that Mount Lady took out? Is this the same villain that Mount Lady took out when, before Kamui Woods did? He has Gran Torino's cape. Oh, snap! Last panel was a stark contrast to the panel in Chapter 1. But in the last panel for Chapter 1, the last thing said in the first chapter for Chapter 1 was, you can be a hero. And the last thing said was Midoriya saying, fantasy became reality. I forgot to mention this, but this is the story of how I became a great hero. That's actually the last thing said in that chapter. I'm trying to find the chapter where a big villain came in. Also, this is actually the first thing. Is it the first thing? Will Yue make him a traitor or try to bring him back? Deku is a high school dropout. I really feel bad for him because his dream was to be in UA. He has Gran Torino's cape. Does that mean Gran Torino is dead? I mean, we don't exactly know. But he doesn't say a huge villain concerning, he doesn't say a huge villain anywhere. And this is literally one of the first pages. Oh, no. I'm wrong. I am wrong. You are right. I am wrong. The first thing he says in Chapter 1, Izuku Midoriya Origin, is, wow, a giant villain. That is the first thing. Please forgive me. I am wrong. I am wrong for saying that you were wrong. You were actually right. Who actually said that? Who said that? Jai? Was that you, Jai? Yes, you were the one who said that. My apologies. You were right. He said, wow, a giant villain. Those are the first words that Midoriya says in Chapter 1. And the last words we see in Chapter 306 is a huge villain. Mirroring, just like Jai said, mirroring what he said in the very first chapter. Whew. Deku left UA. Does that mean he has to get an undercover name? We really don't know. Because we don't even know where All Might is now. Because we don't see All Might with Midoriya. Whether he's off someplace else or Midoriya is branching out on his own, that remains to be seen. But the final act begins. Now, whether the final act means the final arc of the entire My Hero Academia series, or the final arc that concludes the big battle that is eventually going to lead with All For One facing off against Midoriya. And then the story just continues on from there, and then it concludes. That remains to be seen, but we get to find out what happens in next week's. This feels like it should have been a chapter that would go on break. That's how I feel. I feel like this should have been a chapter that should have gone on break. Because with the name drop of this chapter being at the end, the final act begins, you would think that it would go on break, but we're not. And then we get echoes of the very first chapter from the very beginning of the series being the... Actually, this is the first thing that Midoriya says since, like, verbally says, since he woke up from his coma. The first thing that Midoriya says in this chapter is a giant villain, just like the first thing he said in the very first chapter of the series is a giant villain. Yes, this is the exact same thing. He said a giant villain in the very first thing, in the very first chapter, and a giant villain in chapter 306. 306 chapters later. My goodness, Kohei Horikoshi, you doing the doggone thing with this story. I love it. All might be the one who took him to America to keep him more safe. Who knows if this is America? We don't exactly get a stamp of where this is. I think this series is going to have a sequel just like Naruto and Naruto Shippuden. Gran Torino is probably alive but can't fight because he was hurt really bad. I think Deku will go to America next chapter with All Might. We'll just have to see. Overall, this was a fantastic chapter. This is a 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. The final act begins and Midoriya is just straight up just gone AWOL from UA. Leaving letters for everyone explaining what his power is to everyone. He got his power from All Might. He's told everyone in class 1A what his power is. So now they know. I don't think he went into full detail of every single intricate part of it, but he understands that now everyone knows that he got his power from All Might and that he's left UA because All for One and Shigaraki are going to have a target on them. And if he sticks around UA, it's just going to put a target on everyone else. And since with civilians moving into the quarters and area with UA, it would just put more people in danger. So overall, this is for the best for Midoriya in order to keep more people safe, especially his mom. Uraraka was sad. Yes, she was sad. She didn't even get to say goodbye to him. But then again, we didn't exactly see their interaction when she ran into his room. We just saw, all we saw was Uraraka being the first one to run into Midoriya's room after All Might started talking to Best Jeanist and Hawks, but we never saw any more interaction with any of the students. Why is Midoriya so depressed, though? Who knows? Who knows? Because we don't know how far into April this is. Time has passed. This is not the final arc. There's a lot of things to be revealed, especially Deku's father. That's why I said that even though it says final act, there's no guarantee that this is the final act of the story. I said I kind of addressed that already. I'm not saying that this is the final act. I've already addressed that, but we don't even know how far into April this is. He doesn't even know his mom will be in UA. Imagine if Deku comes back to UA and it's Uraraka and Bakugo dating. That'd be funny. But I feel like, here's my stance on this whole final act thing and whether this means final act for the entire story. There's plenty of time. There is plenty of time for things to be revealed. If this just so happens to be the final arc and final storyline for My Hero Academia, there is something in my eye. It's bothering me, but I'm gonna keep going. If this does happen to be the final act and final arc of My Hero Academia, there's plenty of time to put in information and to reveal things. No need to drag it out. You can just do it in a concise way. So there's plenty of ways. But I think Deku's dad is in America and is a hero. This could be, in my opinion, this could be the end. It's like he forgot about everything. We just have to see in next week's chapter. Next week. It could be in. Don't think it is, though. We'll just have to see where things go from here. We'll just have to see. But, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I got. How long have I been going for? I hope I haven't been talking your ears off for far too long. My apologies if I have, but there's just a lot of things to consider with this chapter. So, I'm just gonna end it right here. Even One for All second and third users should be revealed. I mean, they are. We don't know how long this arc is gonna last, so we can't just say that, oh, with it being the final arc, then that means that everything's got to be wrapped up real quick. You do realize that there have been a lot of chapters ever since that one chapter saying that in March all the heroes disappeared from the city. There's been a lot of chapters since then. So there's plenty to reveal during this arc. So no need to feel like there needs to be more arcs after this final act is done. I mean, they can wrap it all up. When is the next chapter releasing? On the 28th, and it has it right here. It doesn't say that we're skipping, not unless they try to update it later, but right here at the bottom of the last panel, it says next chapter hits March 28th, literally next Sunday. What if Uraraka goes for Midoriya alone? There's nothing really important that has to be revealed, in my honest opinion. Who knows? I mean, we still have to find out who the second and third users of One for All is and what powers they're going to give to Midoriya. But when you think about it, there really isn't anything too overly mysteriously substantial that a lot of us are kind of hoping to find out. Maybe find out who All for One was and actually see his entire face, because it's always been in shadow. Or find out the history of All for One, maybe. I mean, those are things. But I feel like it can be fit into this arc. Because, like I said, we don't know how long this arc is going to be. So to say that, oh, there's no way that there's so much to be revealed, so it can't just fit into this one arc, that's kind of lacking in credibility, I feel. Because you can put a whole lot of information into this arc. But that's the thing. We don't know how long this arc is going to be. So we can't just chalk it up and say, like, well, there's so much to reveal because we don't even know how long this arc is going to be. So a lot can be revealed during the length of this arc. So we just need to be patient. At least nothing that can't be revealed this arc. We just have to be patient with this arc as it goes on. Why does human All for One look like Deku depressed? All for One does not look like Midoriya depressed, because he spends most of his time smiling. If there is a time skip, then All for One will completely control Shigaraki. My hero does not need to be dragged if everything's revealed. Wrap it up. That's how I feel. My hero does not need to be dragged out the pacing does not need to be slowed down just to make the arc longer. Because that's what a lot of different mangas suffer from, is needlessly dragging out something that can be concluded in either 1 or 2 chapters, and you see it prolonged for like 3 or 4 chapters. So, if anything, I can say that My Hero doesn't kind of fall into that subgroup of manga that drags things out for way too long. I feel like the pacing for things happening in My Hero, I think it's been at a pretty steady pace. We've gotten enough information to last us a while, so I've really have had no problems with it. But that's all I got. And I'm looking at Midoriya, and I wonder if this thing he's pulling over his head, that's his old hero mask that he used to have, and he's starting to pull it over his face, I guess. But that's all I got. I'm not gonna It's not My Hero Academia anymore. It changed so dark. It just went from 0 to 100 so quickly. But even that, I mean, the pacing was still good. But I feel like if this is in fact the final arc, this is a perfect arc to bring it on home. But if it isn't the final arc, then, well, I think you should just bring it on home. But that's just me. Maybe I'm just too hyped up over this chapter because I thought it was fantastic. But overall, I am looking forward to seeing what this final act is going to bring. And what does it mean for Midoriya? And will it conclude his story as being the world's greatest superhero? What's going to happen to everyone else? I feel like it'll get revealed during this arc, and it'll come to a meaningful conclusion. So, But that's all I got for you guys. I've been droning on and prolonging this far longer than I needed to, so I apologize for that. But I just want to say, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to watch my reaction today. Sorry if we got started on a bit of a late foot because of my negligence, but that was my fault. It had nothing to do with you guys. That was all me. That was my fault, and I'll pay attention for next time. So, just want to say thank you. It really is an honor for me to do this, and I really do enjoy doing this for you guys. I love entertaining you guys. I really do. And as we get closer, like literally digits closer, 2-digit range closer to 2,000 subscribers, I just want to say thank you for helping this channel reach the heights it has. Thank you for the advice. Thank you for the suggestions, even your criticisms. And trust me, I see every single comment you guys ever drop for me. I read every single one, every last one. I've never skipped a single comment that you guys have ever seen. I read them all of them, and I take them all into account for this channel. And I just want to say thank you for being patient with me. For my highs and lows, it really does mean a lot. And as I turn 29 this Tuesday, I just look forward to more ways to entertain you all. So with that being said, hope you all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next video. If you're new to the channel and you enjoyed what you saw here today, then consider subscribing. It definitely would help, because I am always looking forward to entertaining you. So have a fantastic day. And once again, as always,